But then the Bachon, they all saw they were pasturing in the marshland. First Maravi Simon who lived Sava that they it was a sign that they signed to the days of plenty. The internet, having problem with the internet. This was a sign to the years of plenty. Everything looks beautiful. Because nobody envies anybody else. Everybody is in a good mood. Bachu is ba'agam in the marsh. And behold, there are another 7 cows. That are coming out after them. From the marsh. They were extremely lean of flesh. And they stood near the cows at the edge of the Nile. And the paris that were the ugly cows ate the fat cows. Sheva paris yofetz amarav abiyas vayikatz pare awoke. Now she said the Chalna Simon should take kol simchas hatzav and ishkachas kavera, that the whole beauty of the 7 years of plenty will be lost in the time of famine. Now she verse 6, v'yisham pari, verse 5, and he had another dream. Behold, 7 stalks are coming out in one stalk. V'riyas v'tevas, they all look beautiful. And behold, 7 ears of grain, thin and beaten by the wind, were growing up after them. And the thin ears of grain swallowed up the 7 healthy and full ears of grain. And Pare woke, and behold, it was a dream. She says, what do you mean it was a dream? Behold, the whole dream was complete before him, and it required interpretation. Verse number 8, it came in the morning. And it came to pass in the morning that the spirit was troubled. He went to call the Khartoumim, those kishamachas, whatever, those who can go into do witchcraft, and all the wise men of Pharaoh. And Pari told him it's the dream. Nobody can be translated to Pari. Now she says, when he had these dreams, his spirit was agitated, knocking within him like a bell. The scripture says that the spirit was agitated. There are 2 reasons for this agitation: forgetting the dream and the ignorance of its interpretation. Chaturim is the one who themselves, Nachum, they go to the bones of the dead, so to be able to inquire the bones. The word Timi means bones in Aramaic. In the Mishnah, we find the house full of Time, meaning full of bones. They used to collect these bones. Rashi, what does that mean? They were interpreters. They made many interpretations, for the voice did not reach his ears, but not for Pharaoh. He had no satisfaction in the interpretation, what they said. One of them said, you're going to have 7 daughters, and you'll bury the daughters. And the chief of the cupbearer, the wine, said to the Pharaoh, remember today my sin. Got angry in his servants. And you put me in the prison, in the house of the chief of the slaughterer, me and the chief of the baker. We had a dream in one night. I and him. Each one according to the interpretation of his dream, we dreamed. Now, what does that mean? A dream fit for interpretation. That was interpreted for us, and similar, a dream which interpretation giving and it was appropriate, which was similar to that interpretation. And with us was this young Hebrew lad, Eved, who was a slave, to the chief of the slaughterer. And we told him, he actually interpreted our dreams. He interpreted each one dream. Rashi says, cursed are the wicked, for their favors are incomplete. He mentions him with the expression of contempt. Not, he's a fool, he's unfit for high position. Ivri, he's a Jew, does not even know the language. Eved, he's a slave. And according to the laws of Egypt, a slave cannot become any kind of leader. According to the dream and close to its intent. Verse 13, as he translated, that's what happened. Me, they brought back to my position, and they hung him. Now she says, mentioned above, Pharaoh was angry with the servants. Hence, the verse it didn't specify who restored because it's not necessary to specify who restored. But it could be the one who has the power to restore, namely the Pharaoh. So that's why, in general, you can learn from here the way the Torah works. It doesn't always says him. I say, and we understand who it is. And Pari called Yosef, and they took him out of the pit. Vayigalach, and they shaved him. Vayachlev some leisav, they changed his clothes. Vayavoyo Pari, and they brought him to Pari. Now she says, Menaber, from the pit, from the prison, which is made like some kind of pit. So every instance, bird in the scripture is the expression of a pit. Vayigalach, why did they shave him? They covered Malchus because of the honor of the king. Oops, sorry. Oh, now we go to the Tanya of the day. We are holding on the third chapter of Tanya of today. All these things that I mentioned, that you have two souls. A nefesh elikis, nefesh abahamis. You have an animalistic soul. You have a godly soul. Nefesh, ruach, neshama. These three levels of the soul, actually 5 levels of the main important levels of the soul that come into the body. Is naran sheben neshama. Nefesh, ruach, and neshama that come into the body. Klula me'eser bechinas. They are made up of 10 manifestations. Connected eser spheres alienis. They're connected corresponding to the 10 spheres above divine manifestations. Shenishtal shemehen. That they descend from them. I mean, each one of us, our souls, is connected to a manifestation above. Actually, to 10 manifestations above. And the chlek is the shtayim, which is divided into 2. Shalish imois v'sheva kvulis. The 2 categories, 3 mothers. These are the first 3 spheres are turned mothers. Or they are the source and the root for the next 7 spheres. As a mother is a source for the offsprings. The 7 doubles. The 7 divine attributes called doubles. So much that each of the emotional attribute manifests itself in a twofold manner. As was planned. Pirush, Chochma, Bina, Das. We have the first 3 levels, 3 mothers, so to say, are called Chochma, Bina, Das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. V'shiva Yemei Binyan, they are called mothers, and you have the 7 doubles, the emotional attribute notes as the 7 days of creation. Chesed, kindness, Gevura, strength, severity, Tferes, beauty, and so on. Chesed, Gevura, Tferes, Netzach, Hoyd, Yesod, Malchus, and so on. The other 4 being Netzach, endurance, Hoyd, splendor, Yesod, foundation, and Malchus, royalty. These 7 attributes are known as 7 days of creation. For it's through these 7 attributes that God created the world. Each day of creation came through a particular attribute. Today is Midas HaChesed. In the first day, Chesed was dominant. The second day, Gevur, and so on. And today is Yom Rishon. There's no day in Hebrew. It doesn't call Sunday. It's called Yom Rishon. It's called the first day. Kach v'nefesh Adam, and so too, thus like it's in the world, thus like it's in the spiritual world, would affect the physical world. Ultimately, you have 7 days. Of course, these 7 emotions, kach nefesh Adam, the chlek is inside. So too, it's the human soul. It's 10 faculties. Is divided into 2 general categories: seichel, intellect, and midas, emotions. Seichel keilu chachma bina v'das. Seichel, what's seichel? What's intellect? Has within it 3 different powers. Intellect itself is divided into 3 powers: chachma, bina, and das. Wisdom, knowledge, understanding. Midas, what is the attributes? What is the emotions? Hein avas Hashem is the love of God. Fachta in the fear of God. The yiraseh and the fachta is the dread of God. Yiraseh in the fear of God. Lefaroi in the glorification of God. So you have these 3 midas made mainly chesed, gevura, tiferes. Love corresponds to chesed, kindness, as they are respectively the internal, emotional, external, the practical aspect of the same trait. That's why the kful is, because you have the internal, everything has the internal, and everything has the external. So you have the internal is ava, the external is chesed. The internal is love, the external is chesed. They have inner aspects, so too signifies a response to this tiferes. Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. They're called, so to say, the mothers. Umakar, because they are a source to midas. Thus, like a mother is a source to a child, so too every midah, its source comes from chachma bina, should come surely from chachma bina das. Midas ain't telus a chachma, because midas, emotions, are the offsprings of Chabad. At this point, it would be worthwhile to explain briefly the function of faculty of Chachma, Bina, and Das, abbreviated as Chabad, mentioned frequently in the upcoming chapters. Chachma, the first flash of intellect. It's the seminal and the inner point of an idea. This seminal point of intellect already includes within it all the details and ramifications of the idea. But yet, they are consecrated, they are contracted and obscured. This is analogous to a dat. That's why Chachma is compared to Yud, which is the dimension and length of the breadth of, but are not evident. All is that seen is a dat. Although from the dat to exist, it must certainly contain length and breadth, but it's hidden. Chachma is called Barak HaMavrik. In Kabbalah, Chachma is called an intuitive flash of illumination, which is the beginning of the intellect revelation. For instance, we may observe how a person striving to answer an intellectual question suddenly realizes in a flash of intuition that the question can be answered along a particular line of reasoning. At that moment of illumination, yet he has unaware exactly how the particular question is answered. He knows only that he's found an adequate solution to the problem. Thereafter, the faculty of understanding comes into play. Why? Because through the person thinks about it, Bina, he apprehends it, crystallizes it, clarifies the detail of the idea, which was obscured in Chacham, till the whole edifice of the idea and all its length and breadth become manifest. And that's Bina. For this reason, the function of Bina is described as a maven dava mitech dava, meaning to understand or deduce one matter from another. Meaning that which is previously consecrated and obscured into a flash of Chachma is now revealed and understood. After the full person fully understands the idea with all its detail and ramifications, he must then immerse himself in it, binding and unifying himself to the extent that not only understands it, but he also feels it. And that's das. He feels it. It's his. Only in this way can he be affected by the idea. If this understanding point to the desirability of a particular thing, it will give birth to love for it. If his understanding indicates instead of that the harmfulness of the particular thing, he'll react with feeling fear and flee from it. Similarly with other emotions, the faculty in which one thus immerses himself in an idea is called das, knowledge, which the meaning of Adam Yadas Chavei, the expression that Adam knew his wife, a word which denotes the attachment. The Torah once talk of an intimate relationship is he calls Yada, he knew it. He knew her. Here, so to explain it, explain this in the matter 3 intellectual process described above: preparation, congregation, and contemplation. Is as follows: the intellectual faculty of rational soul, this first conceives any matter. Shamasko called over the faculty which produces the seminal point of the idea, and the first flash of illumination, where we explained above, Nikah b'shem Chachma. That's called Chachma. What is Chachma? Composed of 2 words, Koyach Ma, potential of what is. So really, Chachma itself, we don't know what Chachma is. Chachma is above us. That's the beauty of Chachma. Chachma means, that's what King Solomon said. I received Chachma, but it's still far from me. So the faculty concerning which one poses the question, Ma, what is it? From this stage, the idea in question is not yet clear. So I don't know what it's not. I have an idea, but I really don't know what it is. It's not clear, comprehensible, it's not logical, since its details are still in the potential, emerging only in a later stage in Bina. When one brings the fourth consecrated idea from the potential into the actual, that he thinks with his intellect, and he's on this point, on the chacham, in order to understand and fully well, that is, when he ponders the detail. That's why it's important the way we understand something. Because and to understand something takes avodah, takes work. So you work on it to make it totally particular idea. You take this particular idea, and this lofty one draws down the concept from a lofty level to a lower one by a way of a parable, for example, in order to make it readily understood. He's lengthening it, giving it greater range and accessibility, so that it'll be more readily intelligible to a student. For a student whose capacities are limited, one parable may not be suffice. It may be necessary to provide a second parable to explain the first, thereby lengthening the concept still further downward. As the Torah tells us, King Solomon, he spoke 3,000 parables. So great was Solomon's wisdom that to explain one thought, he had to give 3,000 different analogies. One parable to explain basic concept, the second parable to explain the first parable, so on and so forth, until ultimately giving 3,000 parables. An extreme example of the length of an idea. The breadth of an idea means the multitude of details which the concept comprises, as well as its ramifications. For example, logic behind the halachic ruling in law of kashrus may apply to laws governing financial disputes. And that's the concept, the breadth of the issue. Because you go into the detail. Once you go into the detail, you can also see other things in this detail. This is the meaning, what the Alter Rebbe says, la'ashurei, full wealth, understanding the intellect concept completely in both the length and the breadth. And then, that's not enough. Ula'amokei. Thus, when one understands the concept of length and the breadth, and dwells in its depth, it evolves from the concept which has been conceived in his intellect. Meaning, when one apprehends it in a detailed manner, the seminal point of intellect, which prior to his understanding was but a nebulous point of wisdom. Nikra Bina is called Bina, understanding. Chachma Bina. We didn't get to Das yet. Bina is the faculty which elucidates the detail of any concept and apprehends it full well to it. And these two attributes, Chachma and Bina in Kabbalah, Hein Av ve'Eim, they are called the father. Chachma is the father. Mother is Bina. Hamelida is Avas Hashem, which gives birth to the love of God, to the awe of God, to the fear of God, etc. And that's why they call these two things that they cannot separate. As the Mishnah says, if there's no wisdom, there's no understanding. And if there's no understanding, there's no wisdom. And that completes the Tanya of today. Today is the 27th day of the month, third day of Hanukkah. And the Tillim today is 120 to 134, the 15th Shir Amalis. That's the Tillim for today. I invite you all to Midshem, 10 o'clock. We're going to continue to learn Chitas, Tanya, at Chabad or on Zoom or Torah Direct. And I wish you all a wonderful Sunday, a wonderful day. I invite you all to the park today at 3 o'clock. We're having a grand celebration, Hanukkah celebration. Everybody's invited. And I mentioned I'll see you tomorrow, 8 o'clock. We'll continue the Chitas of the day. Have a wonderful, beautiful day.